Hey, so today I want to talk about what happens when you set target weights too low. I'm actually not a huge fan of target weights at all. I think that the focus should be on eating without restriction and doing so and eating and gaining weight until you get to a point where your mental state changes and your mental state starts to come out of anorexia. And so you start to fear weight gain less, you start to fear food less, eating becomes less emotional, your brain stops analyzing food, you start to be less hyper observant about food, just generally overall feeling more relaxed. And if you have an exercise compulsion, a mental state change is also a reduction in those feelings of needing to move the whole time. So all of those mental state changes are just some of the mental state changes that indicate that the anorexia response, that energy deficit response, your brain thinking that you're in a famine environment, that response is starting to turn off. So all of those things are indications that your weight and your physical state are coming out of a space of danger. And so that response is turning off. And those are the things that should be focused on. You cannot tell if that is happening in a person from a number on the scale, because it's evident up here. It's only, it's evident in how you feel and how you feel about life. And what you'll notice is when those mental state changes start to happen, oh boy, does life get easier and eating gets easier and all of these calorie counting behaviors start to dissipate and all of that stupid thinking about food the whole time. That's one of the bigger ones. When your physical state starts to come out of energy deficit and your body gets better, it doesn't need to tell you to eat food the whole time. So the mental hunger, the constant thinking about food goes. So all of those things are what make full recovery. Those things are what make life worth living. Those things that are the things that give you the freedom of life to just be like, oh, I just fancy doing this today, without having all of those cascading thoughts about, well, what does this mean in terms of what I can eat, skip the gym, and all of that bullshit stuff that drives you crazy. All of that goes away with full recovery. And that's what we need to use as markers of a person being at a restored weight. But sadly, what tends to be used as a marker is somebody getting a chart on BMI and looking for BMI 19 and saying like, that's your target weight, that's your healthy weight. Now I did a video on BMI a while back showing that BMI is supposed to be based on a bell curve, and 19 is the lowest healthy weight for, some individuals, but the majority of the people are in the middle, and that's not BMI 19. And so you cannot say that every single person in the world is at a healthy weight when they're at BMI 19. That's absurd. That's like saying every single person in the world should be 5'5". So when people set target weights and they're often too low, and the reasons for that are fat phobia in our society, and we couldn't possibly allow somebody to actually get into a larger BMI, that would be awful. Anyway, so the state of affairs is that target weights are often set too low. So that's just a sad reality that we have right now. But what I want to talk about is, well, what does that mean? Well, one thing that it means is that if you set somebody's target weight too low, then what happens is they go through all the shit of eating more food and gaining more weight. But if that target weight is too low, they never get to the point where the mental state shift changes happen. And so what happens is, number one, they are in hell. This is the worst kind of place to be, when you're in a slightly larger body and your anorexia is freaking out, but you're not in a larger enough body for the mental state changes to happen and for anorexia to go away. And so you are basically living in a living hell. It is not a nice place to be. Most of us pass through that stage to get to our recovered weight. But the blissful part is that if you keep going and if you keep gaining weight and you actually get to the weight where your body feels that it's healthy, not on a chart, but your body feels that it's in the right place, the mental state changes happen and it's no longer hell. In fact, it's pretty good. It's like everything relaxes, thank God. But what I'm saying is that if a target weight is set too low, people never get there. They get stuck in the hell part. That's fucking awful to do to someone, by the way. Having been there, I know that. That's a fucking awful thing to do to someone. And so that's why I get so angry when target weights are set too low, because I know you're just getting someone to the painful part and then making them stop and stay there. That's cruel. So that's number one. What else happens? The person sort of gives up on recovery a lot of the time, because imagine someone said to you, oh, if you get to this weight, you're going to be all recovered. And then you get to that weight and you're just as fucked up mentally as you were before. Not only that, but you're actually in a larger body, so it's even harder for you. So it's like you start to give up on recovery. I've seen that happen a lot of times. People think that they're broken. They think recovery didn't work for me. I put on weight, did what my doctor said. I was still just as fucked up. Obviously doesn't work for me. And then you get people sort of basically losing the will to live, basically losing the will to continue to recover, which is another cruelty, don't you think?